The statistics are that 50% of teachers in the first 5 years leave the profession.
Mm-hmm.
They don't change schools. They don't change subject areas. They sit there and go, I'm going into real estate. I'm going into banking. Like, they leave the profession. And I think if we can be building those relationships and providing that support to walk through that journey with them, then hopefully then one day when I get to start receiving that teacher retirement, our Georgia TRS check, retirement check, there will be those people taking place,
Right.
my place, and continuing this passion and this movement forward to make sure that we are supporting our students with disabilities and providing them all that free, appropriate public education, but going past just free, appropriate public education, that we are meeting these students' needs, but also meeting these parents' needs, how we can be supporting these parents and going on this journey with them to, hopefully provide the best future possible for these young people.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Sean Cooper. Sean is the director of the West Georgia GLRS, which stands for Georgia Learning Resource Systems, and that is in Ellaville, Georgia. Sean, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us, Sean, a little bit about your position and what the heck is a GLRS?
Well, that comes up so often. People, when I say what I do, they're like, "What is that?" And so, in the state of Georgia, we have broken down the state into 18 regions, and so we have these regional RESA, which is our regional educational service agencies, and they support math, ELA, school improvement, and all those kind of things. Well, the GLRS in the state of Georgia is through our Georgia Department of Education. They use some of their federal funds when it comes to special education. And we have people like me, they've broken down the state of Georgia into these different regions. And so I serve West Georgia GLRS districts 11 and 12. And that is, I serve 17 school districts and 2 GNETs. And those are therapeutic centers for students with behavior disorders where they need to be on a separate campus. And so I have 2 of those programs in 17 school districts.
You're busy.
I am. I go from the middle of the state. If anybody's familiar with Georgia, kind of the easiest way is I go from I-75, which is the interstate that goes from Atlanta straight down to Florida. I have 2 districts are on I-75, and I go all the way west to Columbus, Georgia, and down to the bottom of Lake Eufaula. So I cover half of the state and the middle of the state, that west side. And so a lot of traveling, but a lot of back roads. I don't deal with that land traffic, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. That's a nice thing. I bet you get some nice quiet roads sometimes. Just
I do.
going and enjoying God's country.
That's it.
Absolutely. So you were telling me that you have a lot of the rural districts, the smaller, and that's why you're covering 2 before the show. You were telling me that. So
Right.
how many kids are we talking about?
So, out of my 17 school districts, 7 of my districts are one building school districts. So, pre-K through 12th grade, all in the same building, all using the same media center, all using the same cafeteria. Makes it easy for transportation to figure out the buses because you're like, if you see a bus, hop on it. It's all going to the same spot. All the siblings go to the same school. My tiniest district this year has around 220 students, pre-K through 12th grade. They have 9 seniors this year. I know that sounds
Wow.
hard to believe. And so that's a public school in one of our counties, and no private schools in that county. So, I mean, there's just very few students in some of these rural areas. Georgia's unique in that years ago when they kind of split up our counties, they wanted everybody to be 1 day's walk from the courthouse. And so that's kind of how they developed their counties. And so we
Interesting.
have around 190 school districts. Along with that, we do have some city school districts. After 1960s, they passed a law that they wanted every district to be a county. But if you're grandfathered in, so we do have some city school districts left that were grandfathered in. And now we have something called state charter systems, which are charter schools, and they serve as their own LEA, local educational agency. So over 200 districts in the state of Georgia. Not like out west where you can drive 2 miles and be in the same school district. For me, I can drive 2 hours and I might go through 6 or 7 of my districts. So
Wow.
smaller square footage, square miles of distance, but just some very, very rural areas that I serve.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kinds of things do you do for your school districts? Tell me about what you do.
So, with GRS, we have, different kind of state priorities. Right now, some of our focuses are on HLPs, these high leverage practices. And we have a great program, which is our TPRP program, which is our Teacher Retention and Promotion uh, uh, program, really trying to work with our new SPED teachers. Um, and so we know that there's a teacher shortage across
Yeah.
the nation. Here in Georgia, we're just like everybody else. We have a teacher shortage.
Yeah, it's
And then on top
nationwide,
of
isn't
that,
it? Yeah.
it is. And then when it comes to special education, there's even a bigger shortage. And so, one of the things that we've set up, and we're in, I think, our fifth year coming up, is this HLP TPRP. But what we're doing is that we're working with the Cedar Center and AIR, which is the American Institute for Research. And so we've got these high leverage practices for special education. So we're teaching classes, but also with those teaching classes and with our audience being new SPED teachers or what most of our teachers are is through our what we call our Georgia TAP program. And so that's that Georgia Teacher for Academy for Preparation and Pedagogy. But
Mhm.
that's basically somebody has a 4-year degree, not in education, and they're going through a program. Every state calls it something a little bit different. But that is a makes up a large percentage of our new SPED teachers are through that type of TAP program. And so we have 6 classes throughout the school year. And then on top of that, we do observations in the classroom as well as coaching. And so we're supporting them not just in the teaching, but also in the actual hands-on observations and coaching pieces, watching them in the classroom themselves. And so just a
So
support piece.
So that's cool because I told you before the show, I literally just interviewed Lisa Gilbo, who is a TAP director in Deering, Georgia. But she was talking, I think, general. So you guys are doing the TAP program, but is it specific to special education then?
You're right. And so I have actually with my region, I have 2 TAP programs because Region 11, Muskogee County has their own TAP program, and then my Reese has a TAP program. And so we actually end up teaching the class double. So we provide all classes in Muskogee, Columbus, Georgia, as well as in Ellaville at my where my fiscal agent is, my Chatflint Risa region. But the big thing is that everything we do with my job is always around special education. And so um, now we'll meet always at the beginning of the year with all the brand new TAP candidates and just kind of give them an overview of special education. Because once again, I tell people nowadays, if you're teaching, you're going to have students with disabilities in your classrooms. And
For
so you
sure.
might not be a special ed teacher. You can be a gen ed teacher, but those kids are still in your classroom. And I want to make sure they understand IEPs, accommodations, and those type of things. So we do kind of an overview with that. Um, and then we actually have a LAP program, which is for, once again, that career path where somebody's been in teaching, maybe they don't have a leadership degree. And just like our TAP program, we have a Georgia LAP program, which is for um, those people going into leadership, assistant principal, principal, all the way up to a superintendent. And so we do work with those administrators, once again, making sure they understand special education. And
Good.
so,
Yeah.
and so that is a big piece. So in my role, we've been focused a lot on specialty design instruction. Sometimes you hear called SDI, co-teaching. And so we provide those supports. We also work with our SPED directors to, looking at things like disproportionality, compliance, best practices, looking at through education, we have this thing called FTE, which is basically a count that we do in the fall and we do in the spring. And it's where we kind of look at who are your students, what are the programs those students are receiving. It goes into this massive formula, and then the federal government spits out a number and says, here's how much money your district has earned. And so it's a very complicated thing. So we work with those districts, understanding, because once again, in my region, uh, I've been in this job, I'm going on starting my 11th year. And out of my 17 SPED directors and 2 GNETS directors, one has been here as long as me. So I have a lot of young
You
directors.
knew. Yeah.
And so they
Hmm.
might have been phenomenal classroom teachers, but when it comes to actually being in that admin role, and when it comes to, I hate to say this, but the paperwork, when it
Yeah.
comes to actually like, oh, what are those forms that we got to be filling out? What are those reports we got
Hmm.
to be filling out? That's a lot of times where we can kind of come in and support them because it's not they can't learn this stuff, it's just they've not been exposed to some of
Mhm.
these things, and that comes to,
Yeah.
like, state reporting and things, and so we're working with them, but, that is one of the big things that I'm seeing is, the traditional route, I don't know how it is across the country, but in Georgia, I have to always give a shout out to University of West Georgia. They're one of our universities that is putting out a ton of teachers. But besides them, my wife and I are both in the field of special education. We're both proud alums of Georgia Southwestern State University in a little town called Americus, Georgia, that nobody's ever
Oh,
heard
love that.
of.
I
But
love
I
that.
always tell people, I'm like, have you heard of Jimmy Carter? Well,
Yeah.
Jimmy
Mhm.
Carter was raised in Sumter County, Plains, Georgia. That's where my college, my wife and I both went to, is in Sumter County. And so nobody's ever heard of Americus, but when I say Jimmy Carter, they're like, oh, yeah, I knew he lived up like on a peanut farm or something. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's where we went to college in that kind of rural area. And they're doing a phenomenal school of education. But we just don't have young people. We're just not putting out the teachers.
Yeah.
Even, you know, now in my own life, looking back 20, 30 years ago when I was in the school of education, those numbers are going down. And so we've really looked at in the state of Georgia, how do we take from brand new teachers in our kind of TAP programs, how do we, and especially my area, which is always in the field of special education, how
Which
do
is
we take
hard.
them? It
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
so we have seen that the support piece, that not just it's great to have professional learning, it's great to, doing these trainings, but realizing there has to be that relationship. There has to be that follow up. And so that's where we're able to go in and do those observations. And I tell teachers all the time, I'm not signing off on your TAP certificate. That's going to help you become a teacher. I'm here just to support you. I'm not doing in the state of Georgia, every school state has a different thing, but we have something called our TEKS, and it's our teacher evaluation system. And so I always tell people when I was in the school system as an administrator, I was doing those things. Now, when I go in, I'm not filling out your TEKS report. I am truly here to help support you, to help you,
Nice.
answer questions. And it's always at first, like one or two times I go and observe, they still don't trust me because they're still like, oh, how are you going to tell, what's
Right.
going on? But then it's always amazing. Like all of a sudden, this light bulb goes off in these teachers, and they get to about end of October, beginning of November, and all of a sudden they start realizing, "Oh, I can call you, and this is
Yeah.
okay." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm here to support you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanna help you get better." And so I've just really been proud of that program, really working on those high leverage practices, which people always think, "Oh, it's this real detailed stuff." No, it's stuff that really what a high leverage practice is are things that just work. These are
Right.
things that if you go talk to veteran teachers, they're like, "Oh, I've been doing that for years." Like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, you have. That's why we
It's
call them high leverage
intuitive, right?
practices."
Yeah, yeah,
Right. These are
exactly.
things that we know. They have worked the test of time. They really make an impact. And so if you're a brand new teacher, you don't know those things. You might, we have a lot of people who the last time they were in a classroom was when they were a student. And so when you're coming back in, working on that classroom management, working on, especially in the world of special education, we have these things called IEPs, individualized education plans, which are legal documents. And that's scary for brand new teachers when I go, hey, when you fill this out, you're filling out a legal document. Like we are bound to follow this. And they're like, that sounds really
I don't wanna
scary. And I'm
mess it
like,
up. Yeah,
yeah, I don't
don't
want
let
to
me
mess it
mess it up.
up.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get in trouble. And so having that, walking side by side with them and supporting them through that has been a big piece. And so that's a kind of a foundational thing we have. Also with that, through the area of special education, um, we have our Georgia CC, which is our Council for Exceptional Children. And this is a national organization, been around since the 1920s, which is amazing to me because uh, as somebody I was born in 1975, and so it's easy for me to remember when special education federal law came about. It was 1975.
Yep.
Um, and so in my lifetime, we've had federal law we now call IDEA. And so uh, but CEC, Council for Exceptional Children, has been around since the 20s, trying to make sure that we're supporting these students who do have our students with disabilities. And so here in Georgia, we have a Georgia CEC chapter. And this summer, we host a conference. It's just a 2-day conference. University of West Georgia partners with us and they host it. And so we're so thankful for them.
Nice. Yeah.
And so I had to give them a shout out for that. But we have our conference this year. The title of it is All Means All. And so we want all students to be provided that free appropriate public education. We want to make sure all students have access to great instruction. We want to make sure all students, we're looking at not only their academic needs, but their social emotional needs. We want to make sure all students are being taken care of. And so I think that's a big piece too, is having conferences like that where teachers can go and learn, but
Yeah.
also where they can build these relationships. I always tell
Yeah.
people all the time, I don't know everything. I definitely don't. You can ask anybody around. I sure don't. But I always tell people, but I know some really smart people.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
people call me, I'm like, I don't know the answer, but give me a second.
But I
I
got
know
someone
somebody
for
who,
you. Yeah,
right.
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
Exactly
it's like
it. Yeah.
you don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. That there's
Right.
smart people, there are great people out there who are doing great things.
Mhm.
And I always tell people, build those relationships, make those contacts. Nowadays it's so much easier. It used to be when I was starting, we had a Rolodex. Now young people don't even know what a Rolodex is. That's like such a foreign term for them. They're like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
Well, I had it in this little address book. They're like, what? Well, now on your phone, I will type in and make contacts with people and I'll put in, where their business line is supposed to be. I'll go, this person's great in this area. This is my contact that knows about this. They're doing some great things in this area. And so as I meet people, I'm always going, hey, let me hear what great things are going on so I can learn from those people. And so I can see, hey, what worked well? What were some of the barriers that you hit when you're trying to start this off? So I can learn from maybe somebody else's mistakes and go, hey, I don't want to do that. Okay, I need to,
Right.
you know, go in this direction. So that's kind of to me a foundational piece that here in the state of Georgia that we're doing for our brand new sped teachers. Um, but with that, what we're seeing is we're trying to get great sped teachers in the classrooms. But the next concern I have, and so my job, my paycheck is through GLRS, through Georgia Department of Education. Um, but on the side, in kind of a voluntary role, I'm a member of our Georgia CASE. So this is our
Yep.
Council of Administrators of Special Education. There's a
Yep.
national CASE organization, then each state has GCASE. And with GCASE, I am currently finish up my vice presidency. Then come this summer, I'll be the president elect. It's a
Oh,
5-year commitment. So it's,
congratulations.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm at the very beginning of it. You just come check with me,
We
a
were in
couple of years down the
Savannah.
road.
We went to
Yeah.
GCASE in Savannah. Yeah, we were in Savannah, and you were talking about CEC. National CEC was just so those of you that are watching, it is St. Patrick's Day. Sean and I are both in our white and green, so we did not coordinate, but it's St. Patty's Day, which is great. But this will probably come out in May. But anyway, but just this past what is it, last week or whatever in Salt Lake City, Utah,
Yeah.
it was, and my sales guy and three of my people are in Salt Lake City. So we had a booth. I didn't get to go, but we hosted a dinner and had all kinds of fun people there from CEC. And, yeah, so between CEC and we were at National Case and we went to G Case, I'm like, yay, all these really amazing, cool things that are happening.
Yeah, and I actually had an opportunity. I just got back from National CEC, so I was actually there with some of the Lighthouse staff, and um, enjoying spending time with them out in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah.
But that to me, seeing what great things other people are doing
Hmm.
across the country. Previous to my role with GCASE, I was the legislative chair for Georgia, working on legislative at the state and national level. And so through that, got an opportunity to talk to people from other states. And it's so
Yeah.
important because when it comes to special education, it's a federal law, but understanding that every state might interpret IDA a little bit different.
Little bit
And
different. Yeah.
and
Little bit
two, how does
different.
that work within here in Georgia? We're a right to work state, so we're a non-union state. So that's always interesting when it comes to talking to our friends, especially to the north of us who are in union states, and talking to administrators, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can't, if we pull them after school, so much, then we have to pay them, and there's always different things in their union contracts." I'm like, I don't know what that means in Georgia. And so my wife and I are born and raised here in Georgia. It's where I've pretty much done almost all of our teaching careers been in the state of Georgia. So I'm not familiar with those kind of things. But I think it's so important to hear what other people are doing because
Yeah.
there's great stuff going on every day. And I know if you just sometimes turn on the news or any type of social media, I hate to say it, but just like any other career field, there's always going to be those 1% of bad things
Yeah.
happening, and
Yeah.
so we've got to do a great job of promoting the great things that
The
we're
good.
doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I'm just like opportunity like this to be able to share about some of the great things that we have going on in Georgia. So we provide that for our new sped teachers, that HLP, TPRP, we provide that throughout the year, supporting them throughout that whole process. Then once we have teachers in that area, then the next thing we realized, and a lot of this came in post-COVID, so a lot of these things have been going on for the last 4 or 5 years, because once that in COVID and we're all shut in at our houses, we started realizing people needed support still. Programs were still going on virtually, and so the next thing that we created was, through our G case, is we have something called ADA, which is our Administrator Development Academy, and I'm so proud of this. We've been doing this for 5 years, and so, we have cohorts that they fly, and this is for SPED, teachers who've been 5 or more years, and so they've been in the classroom, they're starting, to kind of become more of those veteran teachers, but now maybe they're saying, "Maybe I want to look at going into administration. Maybe I
Mhm.
wanna go
Mhm.
into supporting those," like I tell people in my job all the time, they go, "What do you do?" "I support those who support kids." And so I'm just that one step removed. I don't work directly with
Mhm.
students anymore, but I support those who support students. And so for people who are looking at being a special ed coordinator or maybe a special ed director, we have this Administrator Development Academy. We've had 5 cohorts, and this is through our Georgia case, our Council of Administrators of Special Education. We've had we just, our last spring conference, um, that's kind of their ending of their cycle. So they start in the summer, they attend the fall GCASE conference, they're attending additional classes throughout the school year. They work on a huge project. They come up with kind of a epic project that they work on throughout the year, and then they present that project at our spring conference. And then,
Neat.
it's accredited through our case, our Council of our GALE, so Administrators, Georgia Association of Educational Leaders. So that's our parent company. And so it's accredited through them, micro credentialed. But we've had 172 people come through that
Wow.
program. And with that includes 81 school districts. And so, as I told you in Georgia, we have around a little over 200 county, city, you know, district, county, and some charters. But that's to me just a great number of these are people who are going through and throughout the year, they're hearing from great special education leaders and they're learning about, coaching. They're learning about things like this is what FTE is. This is, when it comes to specially designed instruction, co-teaching, learning those leadership pieces. And so it
Mhm.
gives them an opportunity to be exposed to that instead of kind of thrown to the wolves,
Yeah.
instead of like,
Wow.
and I can, a proud moment as a husband, my wife was part of the first cohort that went through, and she is now a special ed administrator in the county where we live in Houston County. And so I
Nice.
see the fruits of this program
Yeah.
that my wife
Yeah.
was one of the original cohorts that went through. But once again, I think it's, such an important piece because we have these teachers who we see in them these leadership qualities but we got to pour into that. We've got to encourage them. We got to give them an opportunity. And this has gone so well at the Georgia level that now, actually, on the national level, Pace has taken this on, and now they have started their own national ADA, Administrator Development
Nice.
Academy. And my wife and I, both of our backgrounds, this is special ed, but kind of our specialty is around behavior. We both have been prior behavior specialists. And so we actually are presenters, and then we present at the national case ADA sessions. And so
Wow.
we're excited to be able to give back and be a part of that. So I think that's just been a huge piece when you go from ADA, and then the next thing is you go, okay, so We've got people who want to be leaders. That's ADA. Now we have people who've been hired that might be a coordinator, they might be a program specialist, but they're in somewhere in that role between, and they might even be a department head, depending on the size
Mhm.
of your districts, but they're somewhere between a sped director and a classroom teacher.
Right.
So for
Right.
them, we have created CSI, which is our Coordinator Skills Institute. And so for those people, we've had 4 institutes, and so 4 years of programming. Over the time, we've had 278 people
Wow.
attend those over
Wow.
4 years. And so a lot of times these are one-day drive-ins. And so we will send out a survey and say, hey, what are those questions you keep having? What do you need more information on? How can we support you? And then through that, we bring in guest speakers, to provide professional learning, that technical assistance, and we try to do those regionally. And so, Georgia, it's a pretty large state, and so but everybody knows Georgia by Atlanta, and so I always tell
Mhm.
people like that's where most of our population is in the Atlanta
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But outside Atlanta is when if you're coming from the swamp, Okefenokee Swamp down there, and southeast Georgia, Waycross area, that's 4 or 5 hours to get up to Atlanta.
Yeah. What if every student could work with a therapist who brings not just credentials, but years of experience and wisdom to the table? At Lighthouse Therapy, most of our therapists have over 16 years of real world experience. We don't just fill seats. Instead, we find therapists who've seen it all and know how to help. And every new therapist is paired with a mentor to help them guide them every step of the way. Whether through virtual, hybrid, or in person delivery, your students are getting services that's thoughtful, experienced, and genuinely human. Visit lighthouse-therapy.com/brighter together to learn more.
And
Yeah,
so
that's a long
from
drive.
that standpoint, we really do try to make sure these are regionally, so people don't have to, travel so far. But we're really proud of that Coordinator Skills Institute, once again, hearing what the needs are, and then GCASE providing that throughout the year to help that group of coordinators. And so we've gone to that next level. And then when you are hired as a SPED director, the Georgia Department of Education has something we call CELDA. And CELDA is for new SPED directors. And so they meet throughout the school year, and they're going over things like um, disproportionality. We have these different areas of, indicators, areas looking at compliance, looking
Mm,
at your proportionate share. A lot of these terminology, what are sub-object numbers when it comes to budgeting, and what are you allowed to use federal dollars for, and how do you have to document all these things? And so they go through that CELDA program, and so that's through our Georgia Department of Education. Um, and that's just worked great. Having that, I think we have something like 70 participating this year. Out of those 42, I think, are brand new SPED directors. So we do have some people who there may be a coordinator and they know that their director's retiring. And so they
uh,
sometimes go, or we have sometimes too. I always tell my SPED directors all the times, it really almost takes 2 years of CELDA because the first year, if you're brand new in your job,
it's like a
when
fire
they're
hose,
talking
right?
about this stuff, you're like, "I don't have a foundation." Like, they're like, "Go in the
Yeah.
portal and do this," and you're like, "Do I have a login to the portal? What is the
Yeah,
portal? Where am I
exactly.
supposed to find this?" And so it kinda sometimes takes you like, "Oh, the second go around, now I remember what you're talking about." So we have around 70 though that have been coming to that 40 over 40 brand new SPED directors. And so I really think in Georgia, we've done a great job of really
Sounds like
from
it.
brand new teacher, how do we support them in the special ed classroom, all the way through CELDA, and then even with our new CELDA, with those brand new SPED directors, those 42, we partner each one of them with a veteran SPED director. And so we have veteran SPED directors. We have at least one from each of our regions, of our 18 regions. They make up what's called our advisory board on
Mhm.
GCASE.
Yep.
And so we meet with them at least twice a year at our fall and spring conference to get feedback from them. But once again, it connects those brand new SPED directors with a veteran SPED director, somebody they can just call on who's outside their district, so they're not worried about, "Did I do something wrong? Am I
Yeah,
gonna be told on?" But they can call these veteran directors and say, "Hey, can you just listen to a hypothetical?
right.
Hypothetically, if you had a parent call you and ask you these kind of questions, how in the world would you respond?" And so once again, that's just something that's been amazing to me is in the field of education, no one's trying to hide information. No
Right.
one's like, "Oh, I don't wanna talk to anybody about this. I wanna share my information." People are constantly going, "Oh, what do you need? Here, I will send you a
I
link to
love
my
that.
Google Drive. Here's
Mhm.
everything." I tell people all the time, "I will send you all this stuff. You don't even have to give me credit. Look, just put your name on it. If it's gonna make your life easier." Because we're all about, at the end of the day, we wanna be supporting these students. We wanna be supporting these parents of students with disabilities. Reality is in our job, there's certain things that we've got to jump through some hoops. We've got to, fill out certain forms and those kind of things. But the hard thing is if you've never done that and you're going, what does that form look like? Or what do I need to put into this? Going, look, there's people who've, all the time, we have just such an awesome opportunity now, 50 years into IDEA, to be able to stand on those people's shoulders and go,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
reason that nowadays, when you talk to schools and administrators, we don't have to sit there and say, "Do we have a wheelchair ramp?" If we're in a two-story school, we don't have to say like, "Oh, y'all actually put in an elevator." No, that all came through the Americans with Disabilities Act. Through civil, with Office of Civil Rights. The reason that we can make sure that our students have free, appropriate public education, and it doesn't matter what the severity of their disability is, we're going to provide those supports. If the
Right.
kids need occupational
Yeah.
therapy, physical therapy, speech, small group, whatever it is, special transportation, all those things. And it's because the people have gone before us and have fought for those things.
Right.
And so I think, that's the thing I always tell people all the time is like going to Salt Lake City and working, talking to teachers out there. We just had our spring G-Case conference, our special ed administrators here in the state of Georgia, being able to rub shoulders with these people and to learn from them, to share with one another, to actually have that just that bond. I mean, I
Yeah.
always tell that people in education, I have a passion about a lot of things, but one of my biggest passions is in the area of special education for my wife and I both. My daughter's an occupational therapist working with students.
Oh, neat.
Um, and so from that area, I love when I get to go to these conferences. I'm like, these are all my people.
Yeah,
Like, these
exactly.
are my
Yeah.
people, like,
These are
we're
my
oh my
peeps.
gosh,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
we all have the same passion, and so just the opportunity to share with each other about what's going on, and, I love getting to share about I love the state of Georgia, it's where I was born and raised, my wife and I both, it's where we raised our kids, and I think here in Georgia, we've done a great job of really looking ahead and going, "There is a teacher shortage, there is a special ed teacher shortage," um, and my whole thing is, one day we have a great Georgia teacher retirement system, and one day I'd like to benefit from
There you
and
go.
retire. But
Right.
my one concern is when I retire, who's going to take my seat?
Yeah. Right.
And that's when I look around. I look at my mentors in education, and they're retiring as I'm.
Mhm.
As I said, now I'm getting over the, born in 75. I'm now 51. So from that standpoint, looking around and going, hey, who is that next generation of young people coming up that we can build up to take our place and to take us to better heights? I mean, they're going to be doing greater and greater things. And so we're just trying to pave that way for them to give them
Yeah.
those opportunities.
That's fantastic. So you're not busy at all, Sean? Not at all.
No, not at all. Also, yeah, I'm the chair this year of our state advisory panel.
My goodness.
Yeah, so but once again, it's one of those things of, we're empty nesters. I
Yeah,
don't
I get it. Me too. Yeah.
you know, and so I tell people all the time, I'm like, my kids are in their 20s,
Me
and so
too.
it's
Yeah.
it's kind of the life that my wife and I live. When people say, "Well, your office is" to my office is an hour away, but when you cover half the state, it's like
Yeah, it
there's nowhere
doesn't
you can
matter so
live.
much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always on the road or with a laptop or a
Yeah.
cell phone. I, can now reach out to everybody with technology. But I tell people, I'm like, with our job, we're volunteer firefighters.
Yeah.
We're on call 24/7. A lot of times for my sped directors, they're going to call me 6:30 or 7 in the morning because they call me before the school day starts because they have questions or it's at the end of the day. But I'm like, I, I'm always so thankful for the opportunity to go, look, yeah, call me. That's what it's a great thing about cell phones is,
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been in those things of going, oh, I've got a parent I got to call back, or I've got to go meet with a teacher. And oh, I wish I didn't have somebody I could talk to. just to talk this thing through. And I always tell
Yeah.
people all the time, "Hey, I don't mind, call me." And if I don't like I said, if I don't know the answer, I've got some great friends who
Right.
are really,
I'll
really
get you to the
smart,
person who
and
does. Yeah.
I'll get you to the right
Yeah.
person. I will find
Mhm.
out the information for you. So, yeah, I'm just kind of living the dream.
Sounds like it.
It
Your
is.
passion is just exuding. It's just pouring out of you, and I love it because it is so much. What you're doing is serving so many people and making such an impact for the next generation of teachers and special education directors. I always said that is the hardest darn job because there is so, it really is. Katie Lowry, I just interviewed her a
Oh,
couple of
yeah.
weeks ago. Yeah, I love Katie. She's amazing. I met her at GCASE and we just had so much fun. She's just a dynamite human being. And but it's a hard job. And she talked a little bit about it can be isolating. And so having connections to people and because there's one director at each school and that's the person that has as like and I told her, I said, yeah, I mean, I'm the CEO and founder. I'm the one that makes the decisions here. So having people around you, putting smart people around you, it's so incredibly important. And knowing that you have somebody you can email or pick up the phone or call or whatever. I mean, ultimately we answer to Jesus and to
Right.
God, but when you're down here and he's not answering, you got to have somebody else to go to. And
What
he will put those people in your path. Absolutely.
that's exactly what I was about to say. It's that thing of, there's people that I'm all the time meeting, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I got to cross their paths." And, you're talking about Katie Lowry. So Katie is an FTE guru, and so I've actually had her come down to little, we did a training at Georgia Southwestern in Little Americus, Georgia, and Katie drove down from North Georgia. My daughter lives up there in that area, but Katie drove down and shared her great insight about what she was doing with my new sped directors. And that's the kind of thing is that, you know, I used to work in where my wife currently works in Houston County, and it's a larger district. I think they're the 10th or largest in the state, over 30 campuses. They've got a
Wow. Yeah.
large central office. And so we had these coworkers that, you could sit there and go, "Hey, I'm about to go into this really tough meeting. Are you going to be available online?" So, this is back, I'm aging myself, but when we're kind of still doing instant message, and so, like, I'd be sitting there meeting my laptop and I could be sending one of my coworkers going, "Hey, this came up. I'm thinking we should do this. Does that sound
Mm,
right?" But when you're in for my region, you're maybe you're the sped director. You also might be in charge of transportation. You might be over
yeah.
all federal programs
Lots of different hats that
of
going
the
on.
sped
Yeah.
director's assistant
Hmm.
principal. And a lot of times, they go, "I don't have anybody else in my district who does what I do." And so that's where those building relationships is so key. And I think, as I was talking about today, through our ADA, through our CELDA, through these different things, you get an opportunity to come together. That's why I know that, like when I went through CELDA years ago, it was so nice to sit down in a thing and I went, "Oh, all of y'all are brand new, just like me."
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I could look around and go, "Do you have any clue what they're talking about?" And they're like, I don't have a
No.
clue what this
Oh,
is." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not alone."
it's not just
Right,
me.
we
It's
can
not just me.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just me,
Yeah.
because it is sometimes you can be in a training and you kinda look around and you kinda play off like, "Oh, yeah, I know what they're talking about," and on the inside, you're like, "I have no clue what
Yeah.
they're talking about," but learning to meet those people and then 2, realizing, it's just how my personality's always been. So prior to my life in education, I spent over a decade in full-time ministry. And so I've traveled a lot with ministry and speaking in a lot of different places. And I've just realized that people are people. That, it's one of those things of just put yourself out there, introduce yourself,
Hmm.
ask people questions. People don't
Yeah.
mind tell them about themselves. And so
Yeah.
meeting people, and it's just there's so many people over the years now that I've been able to go, "Oh my gosh, I have a friend who does that." And being able to call on those people and go, "Hey, can you tell me how that works and stuff?" And I know just here in the state of Georgia, I was with, John, who works with
Yeah.
Lighthouse, and we were talking about, when we met, we're like, we know so many of the same people. He's like, "Do you
Mm.
know Dr. Kennedy, do you doc no,
Yeah.
Jenny Millward, Dr. Millward?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, these are people I kind of my mentors." And he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, these," and all of a sudden you start going, "Wait, we run in the same circles."
Yeah. Yeah,
And
George
so
he or John's amazing. He just and he's so good at what he does, he does sales for us, but he's just such a people person, and he's so good at what he does in connecting and just, and he's so even keel. He just that I don't think I've ever seen him really upset, you know?
no,
He's
he
just
just
a
has
great
that just
guy. He's just a
laid
great
back
guy.
and just kinda like,
Yeah.
but he brings a
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah,
Like,
he
everything's gonna be
does.
okay.
Yeah,
You know?
he does. He
Hey, and
does.
so he does
Yeah.
kind of puts that piece, but I appreciate the opportunity today to have the opportunity to
Yeah.
share about the great things going on in the state of Georgia.
So
I think
so where
we
do
have a
people
great
go?
plan.
I'm gonna give you
Yeah.
I wanna give you a chance to plug. How do if someone wants to get a hold of you, if somebody else is out there, and we've talked about being connected so much, let's give our audience on Brighter Together an opportunity to go, where do I go to either find Sean Cooper or to find GLRS in Georgia? Maybe that's not in Georgia.
So, my contact information is S. Cooper, or let's be honest, is Scooper,
Cooper, that's
SCOOPER.
great.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
SCOOPER at chat, CHATTFLINT, chatflint.org. It's the Chattahoochee and Flint Rivers coming together. So
Nice.
that's where you get that name. So scooper at chatflint.org is my email address. And so I tell people all the time, I give out my business card all the time with my email and cell phone. If you email me, just tell me how you found me, how we connected, because
Right.
people will call me and they'll email me with the situation, and I'm like, how do I know you?
Yeah,
I
I don't know what
speak,
you're talking about.
I do
Yeah.
trainings across the state of Georgia. I do some national trainings, and so I'm always like, "Hey, just tell me how I know you." And so then that way it helps me with a connection, so they can do
Yeah.
that. If they want to hear more about what we're doing from a standpoint of our ADA, our CSI, those type of things, and supporting, you can go. Gail is our parent organization, but if you just look up GCASE, Georgia Council of Administrators of Special Education, we have won awards year after year for our newsletters. You can go to our website. They can share with those things. Dr. Sabrina Candy is who's head of professional learning for CASE on a national level. This was, the ADA was kind of her passion and dream that she got going in the state of Georgia. And now she's spreading that knowledge and doing that on the national level. But I encourage people to look at GCASE, look at CASE, Georgia Department of Education. We just updated our website. They have information about the CELDA and those HLPs. I want to make sure with that, the Cedar Center, as well as the American Institute for Research, AIR, Dr. Tessie Rose Bailey has provided a lot of that high leverage practice information that we use in our trainings. So once again, it's brilliant people that have been willing to share their knowledge, and then we have an opportunity to share that. Uh, I kind of say where the boots hit the pavement. And yeah, we're kind of at
Yeah.
the ground level with
Yeah.
GLRS, and so um, there's different ways. If you Google me, I'm on LinkedIn, which has a lot of my information there too. But I just encourage. Uh, Especially if you're in a state outside the state of Georgia, to really look at what do you have in place from beginning teacher all the way through that special ed director, and
Mhm.
looking at, do we have those supports in place to really support those teachers? The
Yeah.
statistics are that 50% of teachers in the first 5 years leave the profession.
Mhm.
They don't change schools, they don't change subject areas. They sit there and go, I'm going into real estate, I'm going into
Yeah.
banking. Like, they
Mhm.
leave the profession. And I think if we can be building those relationships and providing that support to walk through that journey with them, then hopefully, then one day when I get to start receiving that teacher retirement,
Yep.
our Georgia TRS check, retirement check, there will be those people taking place,
Right.
my place, and continuing this passion and this movement forward to make sure that we are supporting our students with disabilities and providing them all that free appropriate public education, but going past just free appropriate public education,
Yeah.
that we are meeting these students' needs, but also meeting these parents' needs, how we can be supporting these parents and going on this journey with them to hopefully provide the best future possible for these young people as they become model citizens in our communities.
Awesome. Sean, it has been such a pleasure. You are such an incredible wealth of fountain of knowledge, and your passion is just beautiful. So, and I hope someday I'm sure someday in the
I'm sure
future
we will.
we will cross paths for sure. But thank you for being on Brighter Together. Thank you for your passion, and God bless you and the work that you guys are doing. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity today, and I look forward to meeting with you face to face. I know our paths will be crossing here soon. So thanks so much. Have a great day.